on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Yes, you can specialize through the military. You can apply if you want to. You can also apply to either a military-specific program, or you can also do a normal program, but then your commitment to them doesn't start until you're done with residency. The only thing that's different between military and private office, number one, you don't have to worry about finances, which is great because it's paid for. So like you can always give the patient the best treatment possible. Number two, they're not going to sue me, so that's great for 4 years. You know, like we're all on the same team, which is, you know, as a new grad, that's nice to know and comforting, and you can have that confidence going into treatment. I'm not a person who is like, it's my way or the highway, it's my diagnosis, you know, deal with it. That's how you successfully treat patients and have an awesome office culture, is that, you know, if there's a disagreement or if there's a discussion that needs to be had, like, let's have it so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 479. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for joining us yet again. This is the last week of our hiatus, which means that next week we will be having the new episodes, the new Wednesday episodes up again. So we're excited about that. I'm really thankful that you're all enjoying these rebroadcasts, though. And this one that's going to be airing today is another one of my favorite ones. We recorded this episode at Voices of Dentistry. Voices of Dentistry was a dental podcast conference. I can't remember how many years it was going on, probably 7 or 8 years. And in this one, I catch up with Brandon Evert, and Brandon and I talk about how he was using the military to get through dental school. And I think a lot of times we think about how the military, let's say pilots, for example, people in the Air Force will take their military experience as pilots and then leverage that into working at some of the major airliners. But that can also be true for dentistry. So whether you're a student and you're still trying to figure out like what you want to do with life, whether you're wanting to pivot career paths, or maybe you know someone that is thinking about getting into dentistry, this would be a really good episode to listen to, so that you have a little bit of firsthand knowledge of what someone else went through to try and achieve this path. As always, thanks so much for listening, and enjoy this episode with Brandon Evert.
A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome, everyone, to the interview portion of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast. We're welcome today, soon-to-be doctor,
yeah.
Brandon Evert. You had us on your podcast. It was, 2020?
Yeah,
was it
the
like
last Voice of Dentistry.
The last Voice of Dentistry. I went back, I actually listened to that podcast, and I'm like, there are some things I want to take back on what I said. I mean, I liked it. It was a good episode. Thank you, by the way, for taking a chance on two random hygienists that are sitting next to you over there. We were right over there.
That corner right there.
Yeah. Oh, I should also say that we are, again, live at Voice of Dentistry again.
Yep.
Alongside Amber Lovatos is also guest co-hosting / whatever else she's doing. So, soon-to-be doctor, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Like, who are you? Where are you from? And then I really want to jump into your next chapter.
Okay.
It's exciting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am currently a fourth-year dental student at UIC, which is the University of Illinois at Chicago. Got like 3 months left. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel finally. But kind of how it all started is my dad is actually a high school math and science teacher. And growing up, I would always go into his classroom and on his dissection days, and there's pictures of me at 5 years old dissecting a pig or dissecting a cow heart or, all the fun stuff. Well, at least I thought it was fun at that time. So growing up, I really thought I was going to be like a doctor pretty much, or more specifically a pediatrician. And then, some time went by, and in high school I took an anatomy course, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I love seeing, the muscles underneath and all this stuff. And I thought, orthopedic surgeon, like that's exactly what I want to do. And so up until like my senior year of high school, I was dead set on going into medicine. Everything changed when I went for my last physical to my doctor, who I was very close with, and it was just for baseball kind of thing. And so he's like, well, what are you going to do with your life, Brandon, now that, you're a senior in high school? And I said, well, I think I'm going to go into school to be a doctor. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. And I kid you not, he walked over to the wall and started banging his head against the wall. And and he's like, before you make that final decision, he's like, medicine's a great career. You're going to do great.
Yeah.
But he's like, before you do that, go shadow a dentist. And he's like, I know so many doctors who now wish they would have gone into dentistry. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I went and shadowed a dentist, and the rest is history. Just seeing the flexibility. Here's what I always say when people ask, like, why dentistry over medicine is, in medicine, like, you're either just the radiologist and you take x-rays all day long. Mm-hmm. You're just the surgeon. You're just doing surgeries all day long. If you're the primary care physician, you just, you're prescribing meds. You see that patient every once in a while when they're sick, that kind of thing.
Right.
But dentistry is a combination of all of those things. Like, you're taking the x-rays, you're doing the procedures, you get to see that full transformation from the beginning to the end. And I like that. And plus the flexibility where a lot of medicine now, any doctor that used to own their own practice is now affiliated with some hospital. You still have that private practice freedom in dentistry. So all of that together, I'm like, dentistry sounds pretty good. So
for sure.
Went to college, pre-dental, and then my junior year of undergrad is when I kind of started talking to the military. So there was this big career fair with all of the dental school representatives there. That's the time at the time when I was applying, and just happened to get into a conversation with this Navy recruiter. And he told me, he's like, hands down, this is the best scholarship you're ever going to get. Doesn't matter how well you score in the DAT or whatever. He's like, this is the best scholarship you'll get. And it's called the Health Professions Service Program, which is HPSP, what everybody calls it. And basically how it works is the Navy pays for your 4 years of dental school plus a stipend, so you get a little bit of monthly income, which is pretty nice for a poor dental student.
For sure, yeah.
But in return for those 4 years, you have to serve 4 years as a military dentist. Mm-hmm. So while you're in dental school, really your only obligation to the military is get good grades, study hard, and do your job that you need to do to be a competent dentist coming out. So
do you have to turn in like progress reports to them? Like, hey, this is where I'm at?
Not towards the end you do.
Okay.
Like, I think I just submitted, like, you had to submit your board's report that you passed and everything like that. So I submitted that, and the school can actually, I think I signed something at the very beginning. They can contact the school at any time and pull my GPA, pull my records, whatever.
Sure.
So I'm sure, even though I haven't been notified of it, I'm sure they've checked in on me and whatever.
Yeah.
So did they pay for all your tuition then? You're going to graduate
100%.
debt-free?
Yes.
That's
so the
amazing.
the really nice thing is the only debt I'm going to have is from undergrad, which is minimal compared to what all of my classmates are coming out with. $300,000-$400,000 in debt. I'm going to be maybe 80 from undergrad, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really nice, and it's really nice that I'm going to have that 4 years of experience to get faster, to work, to get that practice. Because a lot of people coming out of school, in dental school, we're used to having an hour and a half, 2 hours for a single filling, and we take that time. And, once I'm in the military, I shouldn't be spending more than 20, 30 minutes on a filling, So I want to get to that fast point. So when I open up an office, when I'm done with the military, I'm fast and ready to go, and I'm productive. So
one of the things that, like, even just the last interview that we did over there, like, you are 5 steps ahead of everybody. Like, you are such a thinker about this.
It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. I am a thinker, and I think a lot about the future and stuff like that. But also, it's like my mind is constantly running, and it's annoying sometimes.
Turn off.
It's hard for me to shut it off sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very lucky and fortunate to have this scholarship to know that I have a 4-year job after dental school, which is kind of nice knowing, and that I've been supported financially. So so I've gone through school, got 3 months left, and I'll finally be Dr. Brandon.
Wow.
Now, when you get into the military, do they give you the opportunity for specialty, or you're just general?
So the route I am choosing. Well, let me back up. So, yes, you can specialize through the military. You can apply if you want to. You can also apply to either a military-specific program, or you can also do a normal program, but then your commitment to them doesn't start until you're done with residency.
Yeah.
I am deciding to go the general route. I have pretty much know exactly what I want to do. Going to be a super general dentist. I want to do all my own implants. Hire, and I know we talked about this last time, I want to have expanded function assistants and hygienists and all that to do a lot of the stuff that I don't necessarily want to do, or stuff that I might not have time to, but to fit that into my schedule and to give, my staff the freedom for them to work, and for me to focus on the things that I love to do, which is all the bloody side of dentistry. But so that's kind of what I want to do is after the military, I'm going to open up my own office, have a couple surgical suites, have some ops, and hopefully kill it do all of my own stuff. My goal, and I tell my classmates this when they ask me, is for my oral surgeon whatever area I decide to practice to hate me, because I'm not going to be referring them. I'm not going to refer them
Back
unless
to thirds, you got those ones.
Yeah, I would love to learn how to do, and I will learn how to do that in the military. I will only refer them if it's like something crazy hard. If there's a nerve close by or something, like they can handle that.
Wrapping around the root.
Yeah. Then have fun with that. I'll refer it to you. But like all the surgery stuff is.
So, but you and Dr. Moody are pretty close, aren't you? Already learning a lot of surgery stuff.
Yes. So Dr. Moody and I go way back, even before I got into dental school.
Oh.
I actually submitted my application to dental school while I was on my internship with him. So
Hold on, I didn't know about this internship. Tell me.
Okay. So
back the story way up.
Okay, I'm going to back it up. So in undergrad, this is when I'm at Indiana University. I'm a pre-dental student. Me being the dental nerd that I am, I started searching for dental podcasts, and I came across this one called Dentist Implants and Worms. Like, oh, these guys are drinking. They're talking about dentistry. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Sponsored by Boyd's.
Yeah,
right?
Boyd's Wine and Spirits. This is the third podcast I've sponsored Boyd's. They're going to get a lot of customers after this. So I followed Dr. Moody on Twitter just because I wanted to know when the next episode would come out so I could listen to it. Well, he looked at my Twitter and saw that I was a pre-dental student, and he reached out to me and said, hey, you want to be on our podcast so, we can understand what it's like to be a pre-dental student right now. I'm like, absolutely. As nervous as I was, I'm like, this is a big opportunity. And so I did a couple podcasts with Dr. Moody, and he invited me out for an internship, and he was in South Dakota at the time. So I flew out there, not having met him before, which is kind of crazy to think about. It's a wild story.
Psycho killer. But
yeah. So
you get trafficked.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting conversation with my parents. They're like, you're going to fly out to South Dakota to meet this guy that you've only met on the internet. I'm like, yes. And they're like, you're going to stay at his house. And I'm like, yes. And they're like, okay, don't die. But it ended up being life-changing because it opened my eyes to what implants can do for patients and kind of set my sights before I even got into dental school on exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So having that relationship, I've been through his course a couple times when he comes to Chicago, which is awesome. But on top of that relationship has kind of helped me get into a program at my school called the Advanced Implant Program. So that allows a select few undergraduates that are in dental school to place dental implants. So actually just before Christmas, I've already placed my first implant, and now I'm just waiting for it to heal. I'll put the crown on, and so it's a great experience, a great learning experience, and great, practice.
So your other classmates, so they're just restoring the implant?
Correct, yeah. So
that's okay. Is it because there's only a limited number of spots, or there's a limited number of patients that need implants? Like, why can't just anybody get into that program?
You know what? That's a great question. That's kind of the schools. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to talk about that.
That's fine.
But they only offer a limited number of spots.
Sure.
Everybody has to restore an implant, so we all get experience with custom healing abutments and putting on the final crown and the delivery of an implant crown, but not everybody gets to place them. I think it's because it has to be supervised, the surgery. They have to find residents who supervise the students while they're placing implants, and that can get kind of chaotic, I'm sure, if every single student were to do that.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I was able to get into the program, and the resident that got assigned to me was super awesome. He's a prosthodontist, and he's also doing a 1-year fellowship in oral surgery. So, I got his prosthodontist side of things. I got his oral surgery side of things. What's really cool is that we actually developed, him and I, a digital protocol now that everybody else is going to be using at school.
Ridiculous.
It's like a super student.
So, well, here's the thing. Is that, this digital stuff is not new.
Right.
It's been around for a long time, but it's at a dental school, that's unheard of, because dental schools are kind of lag a little bit behind. They're focused on evidence-based dentistry, so they wait for all the literature to come out about it, and then they start implementing it.
Yeah.
So basically, we took the cone beam, we did the intraoral scan on the patient, then we were able to design and plan the implant. We were actually able to 3D print the surgical guide at school, which that's the part that's never been done before, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then we were able to do the surgery. It was a lateral incisor, which is pretty sweet, so in the aesthetic zone, and we were able to actually put a temporary crown on the same day for the patient right before the holidays because the implant went in nice and stable. So they were happy that they got a tooth, even though it wasn't the most aesthetics thing in the world because temporaries are hard. It was my first one, and with the angle of the implant, a little metal was shown. Whatever, but they were happy. They were missing a tooth there previously, but they were very happy.
Right.
So anyway, to go through the whole planning process, the surgery, and then to be able to put the crown on in a couple months, that's going to be, it's a wonderful experience. So I'm very fortunate to have done that.
Did you apply to that program?
Yeah, so you have to apply to it at school, to do that. And they look at your grades, and you have to write a couple personal statements, and they kind of look into that. So being able to say that I have been through implant pathway and stuff, I'm sure kind of helped. So
one of the questions that we get a lot, kind of like in the social media forums and things, is about, and please don't be offended, but like the dumbing down of dental schools and hygiene schools too.
Yeah.
Because of COVID and things like that. So I know you can't speak for the school, but as a hygienist, is there anything that we should be aware of for these newer grad doctors that aren't going to go through the pathway that you're going through the Navy and GPR or whatever else?
Fortunately for my situation, we have not been hit too hard. Like, we still have been able to get a lot of our clinical requirements and have been able to do a lot of procedures. But COVID has especially like for classes like the class behind us or the class behind that class, like they've been hit really hard where like they're not getting a lot of sim clinic time. So that's going to impact them, I think, in terms of hand skills and in terms of the amount of repetitions on live patients that they're going to get coming out of school. So I think the dentistry is going to be good. It's just like maybe the speed might not be as fast. And especially like for implants and stuff, you know, they might not be as knowledgeable about any like specialty procedure. Like they're going to come out knowing bread and butter dentistry, you know, forwards and backwards, and how to diagnose it, and, you know, oral pathology. I feel like my school is very good at that, and treatment planning is something that my school is really known for, is putting together a comprehensive treatment plan for patients. But some of the specialty things, being at a school that has all of the specialties, a lot of that, they view that some things may be harder and don't want students to challenge themselves, so they just refer it to the residents to do, because the residents also need repetitions on those harder cases. So sometimes it's harder to get a harder, more challenging case sometimes. But if you really push for it and you're kind of annoying about it, they'll let you do it, which I've done a couple times. But
squeaky wheel, man, gets the grease or whatever.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about new grads. I think, you know, one thing to get into your kind of sphere of hygiene and assisting and stuff like that, I was able to have a couple external rotations. They kind of canceled it for the class behind us, but they actually re-implemented it at outside clinics. So like for the first time ever, I was able to work with hygienists and work with assistants, and I'm like, wow, like I have help. It is amazing, you know, and because we don't get that at school. Everything is alone. You know, we work by ourselves, and obviously that takes a little bit longer because I have to turn around and grab my etch and then turn around and grab my bond instead of having, you know, when I was at my...
And you're like, stay open, don't get this wet.
Right.
Bite block, rubber dam, all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. But when I am at these, you know, rotations, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I kept putting everything back on my own tray, and they're like, Doc, you can just hand this back to me. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Like, I have a pinky, like put it in our pinky, and then we'll do this. We'll do this like that.
I'm just not, I wasn't used to that. But by the end of it, I'm like, this is amazing. And then at the end of my rotation, I had to go back to school, and I'm like, this sucks. You know? But it is nice. And, you know, a lot of people view it like, oh, like assistants do all the dirty work. And I'm going to use that as a loose term just for a second. But it made me realize how valuable those staff members are to your practice. Why? Because they free up the doctor a little bit, especially viewing at this from a dental school perspective, where I have to take all of my own x-rays and do all of this. It frees the doctor up to do more dentistry and deliver more production and change more smiles and lives in a shorter amount of period. So like it really opened my eyes up. I'm like, it's incredible.
Keep preaching it. Keep preaching that message. 'Cause that's going to help. That's going to help the world. Man. I swear.
Right. Absolutely. So that's the way I view it. Now here's a question for you too, because I'm somebody at school. We use Isodries, and I love them. It helps keep the tongue out of the way and everything. But then, you know, if I were to have an assistant, that's not something that, like, they wouldn't have to suction. Are they happy about that? Do you what is your viewpoint?
I mean, I think it's. I'm not an assistant, never been an assistant, but from what I hear, there's two things. Yeah. It's the assistants that don't really love doing endo because it's so boring.
Yeah.
You're taking one thing away from them. Yep. However, I think going back to your point about, like, we talked about this before, but like communication and freeing somebody up to be able to do more things. If you can explain to them why you're doing what you're doing, like, hey, this is better for the patient, because we're going to have a dry field, which means this is going to last longer for the restoration, et cetera. I'm not trying to encroach upon what you traditionally have done.
Yeah.
While I'm doing this, you can go ahead and do this, or, you know, you might actually be able to take a break and go get a drink and go pee. Like,
and like right now with COVID and all our employees getting COVID and being short-staffed, and we're already short-staffed just because we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And then everybody's getting sick. You need things like
Right, which is nice because I feel like at least while I'm prepping, I can have the Isodry going. I can prep pretty much by myself, and the assistant, hygienist, whatever, they can free up to do something else, prepare the next chair, go do a prophy, whatever, and then when I'm ready, they can come back and help during the restoration process. I feel like, especially like you said, that's a great point, that we're understaffed now and it's hard to find work. Like, you could survive using those isodries on fewer staff members than,
For sure.
Yeah, I was just interested how that technology is viewed, because I feel like it kind of takes away something from the assistant, but at the same time, it's more productive and helps the patient.
I think they appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah.
You're investing in me, so I don't have to sit there and hold the suction like this for forever.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they'll like it.
Yeah.
But look, everyone's a little bit different, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk a little bit more about your military.
Yeah.
Next
Absolutely.
step.
Absolutely.
Navy, right? So Navy. Are you planning on being stateside, or is this an international?
Yeah. So, I spoke too soon. I'm going to talk about my first year, because I don't know anything after my first year. So basically how this is going to work is I'm going to graduate from dental school end of April, early May. Sometime after that, which I still don't know yet, I'm going to go to officer school in Newport, Rhode Island for 5 weeks. Basically,
is that like boot camp?
It's not boot camp. They kind of kick you around a little bit. Like you'll still wake up early and go on runs and stuff. But the majority of that is lectures and learning the ways of the Navy, the hierarchy. You take some basic warfare classes, some naval firefighting classes to put out a fire on a boat if you need to.
Yeah.
It's
basic warfare in the dental chair. Yeah. It might happen. Look, we might have it.
Yeah. Well, hey, you never know when you're going to need to use a handpiece as a weapon.
I guess, right?
No, but the thing is even though you are a dentist, if you need to be called upon to do something else, you're ready. So there's some physical fitness in there, but there's a lot of lectures and other things like that. So that's Newport, Rhode Island for 5 weeks. Sometime after that, after I graduate from officer school, I will report to my first station. So my first station, it's called a credentialing tour, which just means basically you're at a more populated base, so it will be stateside. Mm-hmm. They have a little bit of supervision on you coming out of school just to see how you are, what your hand skills are like. So I got stationed in Parris Island, South Carolina. So my wife and I are going to move down there whenever I finish my officer school. So it's a Marine base. So the Navy doesn't only do Navy, it also does Marine dentistry as well. And Parris Island being a major recruiting station, there's going to be a lot of 17, 18, 19-year-olds needs their wisdom teeth out, which is great for me. All the bloody stuff, you'll learn how to do the impacted teeth and all that stuff, and that's what I'm going to push for, even if I have to be, like I said, if I have to be annoying about it to let somebody do it, but I want to learn. That's, But, of course, a lot of drill and fill, a lot of endo, that kind of thing. And there's not going to be, unfortunately, too many implants along the road because, the needs of the Navy is get the work done so they can, you can ship people off to where they need to go. So it's not like you can place an implant and bring that person back randomly 4 to 6 months later to restore it or whatever.
Sure.
But, so that's kind of how that first year is going to work. I'll just be there working 5 days a week. The only thing that's different between military and private office, number one, you don't have to worry about finances, which is great because it's paid for.
Great,
so you can always give the patient the best treatment possible. Number two, they're not going to sue me, so that's great for 4 years.
No malpractice.
Right. We're all on the same team, which is as a new grad, that's nice to know and comforting, and you can have that confidence going into treatment. And also, our schedule starts much earlier, from what I understand. I think the first patient will sit down 6:30, 7:30, somewhere early day, but then you're done early, which is nice. I'm a naturally morning person. I wake up.
You seem that way.
Yeah.
You seem energized.
My wife hates me. So, I wake up at 4 in the morning, and I'm on the treadmill by 4:15.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's too early.
Right. People think I'm nuts. I get it. But then 9:30, 10 o'clock rolls around, and I'm passed out on the couch, So, I get tired, quicker. But that's kind of how that's going to work. After that, everything kind of opens up. So I don't know what the other possibilities will be. I know there's Navy bases in Spain and Tokyo. If you wanted to go international, I don't necessarily want to do that, but if I have to, that's a possibility. You could be stationed.
Go to Tokyo.
Same.
Spain too, though.
For real.
Yeah.
Practice my Spanish.
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
Get better at your Spanish.
Record some podcasts.
Yeah. And then you could be on a ship too. So there's a lot of different options after that first year, from what I understand. Again, I'm not in it yet. I don't know exactly the needs of the Navy change on a monthly and yearly basis depending on what's going on in the world. So it's all just going to kind of depend. But that's the basic blueprint of it. Yeah.
Do you feel like this is a good path? Let's say a hygienist is interested in becoming a doctor. Mm-hmm. Is this a path that hygienists should be considering?
I think so. It depends on if you want to go through the officer school and put in that commitment, because pretty much the Navy is going to they're going to try to appease you on where you want to go. They do try that, but ultimately, like, they're going to decide where you're going to go at the end of the day. So, like, if you're a flexible person, you're good for you enjoy traveling or want to travel and see a little bit of the world and have your school paid for.
Yeah,
that's a damn good route.
Yeah,
right there.
And like, like I said before, that this recruiter that I met in undergrad, he's like, this is the best scholarship you will get. You're not going to find any other scholarship that's going to pay for 100% of your school and give you a stipend. And then also, I mean, you're going to be a salaried military dentist. You're going to be making a salary, but you just have
it's
that
a low
time
salary. But
it is a low salary. Okay, but
still,
you're not gonna get rich.
like,
but at least, you're not paying for all the other stuff.
The
exactly.
debt, and then like the interest of that debt.
And
my husband's a dentist with that student loan debt.
Yes.
It is huge. It is something we'll be paying forever and ever.
Yes.
So for people who maybe didn't plan like you did, when they're in dental school, can they still apply for these things after they graduate from dental school? Can they still apply?
They can. I think from what my knowledge is there's a 4-year scholarship and a 3-year scholarship. So you either have to apply before you get into dental school or apply your first year. The 4-year obviously is all expenses paid. All 4 years of dental school are paid for, books, everything, and then you give 4 years back. On the flip side, the 3-year is that you're on your own for your first year of school. You pay for it, but then whatever branch either Army, Navy, or Air Force will pick up the last 3 years of school, and then you give them 3 years in return. I don't know anything about like a 2-year or 1 year. I don't think that exists. So if you're interested, this is something that kind of has to be on your radar a little bit early on or within your first year of school.
Dang,
if you want to
I
be
was
able to
ready
do
to
that.
like ship my husband off.
See ya.
But yeah, when did he graduate? It's been a bit, right?
In 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
And he's getting old.
It's okay. It's 5 years later, but honey, I need you to go enlist, please. pay that school back.
Yep.
Okay. I want to talk about podcasting for a bit. What's the name of your podcast?
Extracting Wisdom, just next door.
It is just next door. Is this something you're going to be able to continue on doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So I don't. This is something I don't know in terms of military, like what I will and will not be able to like talk about. But yeah, this is definitely something that I want to continue, and like look how many connections you're able to make, and different people you meet through podcasting. So this is definitely something that I want to keep up and keep going, because it's a great connection builder. You build friends, and every time you come to meetings like this, like you meet more people and you see the people that you met last time, and it's a great time. It makes it more fun. Yeah.
So I feel like Richard did some stuff, wasn't he? Well, yeah, he was a military recruiter though. Was he actually in? I feel like
don't know.
Dr. Lowe, not Richard. Dr. Lowe.
I knew who you were talking about. Yeah.
Sorry for our audience. I should be more respectful for doctors.
I don't know. I know he was a recruiter. I don't remember what his, like, if he was enlisted or not, or commissioned or not. I don't know. It's a good question.
Because I feel like he was all in on podcasting. He talked about a lot of different things. Like he had zero restriction and built a nice little practice thing out of there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What other questions do you have about hygiene? So by the way, we did just have I can't remember which branch she was in, but it was military hygienist.
Yeah.
Talked about her experiences on one of our last episodes. So go back and check that out.
Yeah.
So you can know what to expect when you're going in.
Right.
But what other questions do you have about like hygiene, about the roles, responsibilities, anything else that we can help you with?
Let's see. How do you like doing SRPs? Do you know how many?
I like doing them.
So here's my question.
If I have the right equipment.
Yeah.
If, not like I attempt at this clinic that was called like something like Soft and Gentle. And I was like, the only reason you were like Soft and Gentle is because those instruments were so dull. You weren't actually doing anything. That's why you were so soft.
It was so dull,
gentle.
you couldn't even burnish it. It was
exactly.
so dull.
It was just like, you're not doing
jumping
anything.
right over it. Yeah.
So if I have like sharp instruments, right instruments, right. If I have the right and the amount of time. Time to educate my patients about why we're doing this and what the follow-up looks like and what they're required to do, then I do love it. Right. Do I want to do like a ton in one day? No.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I feel like the problem that I have, not with SRP, but like just bigger picture, is diagnostics. So there's too many times when it really is a perio patient that ends up being bloody prophy, right? Mm-hmm. That's the biggest complaint that we have as hygienists. Right. Doctor came in and said, now you won't see this in the military because everything's paid for, but when you have insurance that you're battling, there's bone loss, there's bleeding, and there's pocketing. Like it doesn't matter how much calculus they have that they do or they don't. But like that's a scaling and root plating patient, and then paramaintenance, right? But then a lot of the times, like I feel like I don't care about the actual scaling and root plating part, right? instruments, all the things I need to do the job. Fantastic. I love it. Patients heal up. That satisfaction that you get from like elevating a tooth out and like, it came out. It's the same thing that we feel on a clean root surface, right?
Oh, and you know what?
And
I will say I still loved. I did an SRP yesterday. I still love doing SRPs.
Are they fun?
They're fun.
They're so much fun.
And you know what? It's nice. It's a nice change of pace. Like you're not doing an extraction or like a restoration or anything. It's nice to just grab the Cavitron and just go to town on some calculus. It is awesome.
So, but I just think that, when we are then told, it's like, okay, well, now I have to do a prophy. Like, I feel like it's more of a management of the situation that I have issues with rather than the actual procedures.
Sure. And I think our school, the school that I go to, does a great job of that. Like our perio faculty and our perio program, I think is like top notch. Like
nice.
Perio is something I did not have to study for my boards, because they literally drill perio into our heads. The thing I have a question about, though, okay, especially if you have a perio patient on like a 3-month recall, okay, you can't, like, insurance companies don't pay 4 times a year or don't reimburse for perio maintenance. Yeah. Do you make patients pay if they need to do a perio maintenance, or can you bill that as a prophy, like alternate them? No. Okay.
No, because a prophy by definition is preventive, right? It's
correct.
Prophylaxis, prevention of. So you're telling the insurance company we're preventing a disease that they already have.
Right.
Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, you can't. It's impossible. So it's, at that point, it's insurance fraud, right? So
correct.
then it's just, you can't do that.
I've heard of offices doing that, but I know that's I totally understand.
Well, what you could do though is like you could use a miscellaneous code. I don't advocate it. I don't want you guys doing it. Really, everyone stop. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But if you are a doctor, I think T-Bone talks about this on our podcast a while back. He's like, look, I just want our patients to be clean. I don't really care. I'll give the diagnosis of perio, but I don't really care what the therapy is like called. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be the fee for it. It's a flat fee. It's this. That's it.
Okay.
But you have to use a miscellaneous code to do that, or in your own private notes, just don't submit to insurance and put it in your own private notes that this is what you're doing. Did not submit to insurance, all this other stuff. So there's a way to still to do it.
Right.
But the best way to do is still, if you can submit those claims to insurance and they can get denied, then the insurance companies keep seeing that track record of we are trying to do the right things for our patients. You're screwing your client.
Right. I see.
It comes back to educating your patient,
mm-hmm.
right? Not just prophy them like, hey, now you have to do a prophy or a perio maintenance every 3 months. Mm-hmm. Why you're having to do that so they don't have to relapse, so they can be healthy. Not just telling them you just need this. Explaining the why behind all of those things will help your patient be more compliant.
Right.
And I will say, as some advice from a hygienist who's worked with dentists and managed a practice, I say being receptive to your hygienist, although obviously you're knowledgeable and know the things, right? But if your hygienist, giving them the opportunity to come to you and have conversations about maybe a procedure, a diagnosis they may disagree with, right? And having an open conversation about those things, that I think helps everybody be successful.
For sure.
Trust me, I am not somebody like, I'm not a person who is like, it's my way or the highway, it's my diagnosis, deal with it. That's how you successfully treat patients and have an awesome office culture, is that if there's a disagreement or if there's a discussion that needs to be had, like, let's have it so everybody's on the same page.
Here's the thing, though. Like, okay, I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
But we knew this back in 2020 when we talked to you.
Yeah.
You're not going to have those conversations in the same way other doctors will, because you're already thinking there. You're already there.
Right.
Like, your practice, when you get out and you establish your own thing, like, it's going to be, you're going to calibrate your hygienist. You guys should have that one initial discussion, and then you won't have any problems after that.
I mean, you mentioned it from the beginning of this when you were saying you wanted to empower your hygienists and assistants to do expend functions. Like, from there, just from that, you're telling me, like, okay, you want to empower them. You want to work as a team. Right?
Yeah.
We need all dentists to do that too.
I mean, even like this, like small things, like I'm in an extraction appointment, and my assistant that's working with me says, like, hey, you want to use this instead? I think, maybe you picked up the wrong instrument or just something like that. Like, I'm not going to take offense to that. I'm like,
I like when they shove it in your hand. Like, no, doctor, this is what you want.
Right. Or like, just whatever
aren't
situation.
We working on the right side?
Oh my gosh.
The other number 3, doctor.
Yeah. Like whenever those comes up, like the doctor shouldn't take offense to that. Like
we're a team.
We're a team. Speak up. We're all on the same team here. Like, I appreciate that. Like, let's get back on track. Maybe, people make these little tiny mistakes. Like, I'm looking at the wrong tooth before we start, or like I pick up the wrong instrument, or whatever. Like that's how you get.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to. You got to lean on each other too.
Are you seeing a trend in like the doctors that you've been kind of coming in contact? I feel like the newer generations of doctors are a lot more inclusive.
Yes.
Not saying that the older doctors are not, but just as a whole.
So I worked as a dental director of a nonprofit dental clinic, and so both of us were directors. The dentist was a director, and I was a director. Amazing. She graduated in 2016. We could talk about anything. We were absolutely a team.
Nice.
We could disagree on things, but we could talk through it, and she would take what I had to say, and I would take what she had to say. Yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, I like that. I think that just the culture is changing, where all the things that you're talking about is because, you know, part of it you're being taught that, but also it's intrinsic for you specifically. But I think that it's out there that we're team dentistry now.
Yep.
But also I think education has come a long way. I think continuing education has come a long way for hygienists and assistants and all of that. But
the problem is that we don't get very much exposure to like working with a hygienist or working with an assistant at school.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of that, like I said, on my rotations. I think we have one rotation where they sent a hygiene student over to our school where we kind of supervised them and kind of helped them as if it was like a real like SRP appointment. We bring them over for an SRP, you know, and in Illinois they can give the injection. So they injected and did the whole procedure, and we kind of double check their work.
Nice.
And then, you know, if there's any calculus or whatever, we just point it out to them, they clean it up, and then we bring the instructor over and they, you know, double check. But it's nice to have that. I wish we had more of that, you know, that more team approach, because that's what real life is, and that's what it's going to be like in practice.
So here's an idea. So I was an educator. I taught in a dental school where we had a dental hygiene program.
That's awesome.
And so I was clinic coordinator, so I organized the hygiene students. And one of the things that we did was called like file recalls, where basically the hygiene student would go to find a recare patient for one of the dental students and take care of their recare patients. And they had a certain amount of them that they had to do. And then once they met that, they got like extra credit for every more patient that they saw. So it allowed an opportunity for them to be incentivized to see more patients with the dental student, to work together, and it's faster appointments. So yeah, we really enjoyed that, and it really forced the hygiene students and the dental students to collaborate, to talk to each other, because a lot of times, although we're in the same school, they weren't talking to each other. Right? They were in different schools, so it like forced everybody. The dental students wanted to have 2 appointments going on at the same time, so they could do whatever sort of work and have the hygiene student doing their recall appointment.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing too, is like we don't even get experience in school running 2 appointments at the same time. Like again, on my
have a hygiene check going on here soon.
Yeah. So we don't know that workflow, and like again, I did a little bit of that like on my rotations where like I had an emergency come in and diagnosed that, numbed that patient up, went to the next op. I had like maybe another emergency and then a hygiene check at the same time. So I'm bouncing between ops, and I'm like, this is so much fun. It makes the day go by so much faster. Way faster. It's fast-paced.
Prepares you.
Right, and it does. And it prepares you. So, like, that's what I'm excited for, is that fast pace. Like, you know, I like a little bit faster pace. And the worst part of dental school, in my opinion, is, like, prepping. Once you're, like, a 4th year and you're faster than you started at prepping. So you're, like, go in, do your prep, and then you got to wait, like, 20 to 30 minutes for somebody to come over and check it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, you could be done by now. And like on the rotations, they trust you a little bit more. They watch over your shoulder, but it's not as like you're not as under a big of a microscope as you are at school. So like you're like, wow, like you can move so much faster when you don't have to wait 30 minutes for an instructor to come by to like check. So like those are so many things that like from a dental student perspective that I'm so excited for graduating.
I would like to see, honestly, though, is it's great that we have like, you know, hygiene and assisting working with doctors or dental students. I would love to see established hygienists go into there and really help them, because I feel like there
are some dental schools who do that.
Blind leading the blind sometimes, you know.
I think my husband's dental school, they had a hygienist, and my dentist who I worked with, Dr. Janice Wynn, amazing. She went to school in Arizona. They had hygienists checking their perio treatment.
Interesting.
And they said they were hardcore.
Kind of like that.
I like it. I like it.
Congratulations, by the way. You got married this last year, yeah?
I did. Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
I got married in June. So
June what?
What'd you say?
June what?
June 26th.
Oh, good. Nice.
Yep. And actually, what's funny is that it's my parents' anniversary too. Just happened to work out that. So we share the same anniversary, so my dad and I can remind each other. But no, I'm kidding.
Of course.
Dad, don't forget about your anniversary. That's funny.
No, but it was great, and it was a long time coming. I've been with my wife. We were together sophomore year of high school, so like we're an old married couple already. So she's been through undergrad with me and dental school with me, and so it's been awesome.
Is she a planner like you are?
She is very much a planner.
Nice.
We are planners in different ways. So like when it comes to like school,
such a politically correct way of saying
no, but it's 100% true. When it comes to school,
we're gonna send this to her.
And dental, like Sydney, if you're listening to this, you know it's true. Okay. so when it comes to school and like dental, like I am like 100% organized and everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to like personal stuff, like hey, like do you remember like we have this thing on like the 15th? I'm like,
typical
what?
man.
Yeah, it is. I think it's definitely a guy thing. But like, so when it comes to those kind of things, I'm terrible at.
Yeah.
She's very good at those. Like somebody will say like a date, and she has it in her head, and they're like, oh, like next Tuesday, like we're doing this, or like next weekend we have this going on.
Yeah.
But then she'll ask me like, hey, do you remember we have that thing? I'm like, I don't remember at all.
That's why it's our partnership, man.
Right. So we definitely balance each other out. Like I'm a morning person, she's a night person. It's get the whole yin and yang total package. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, good, man. So thank you for your time. If people want to check out your podcast or just follow your journey, where can they find you?
They can find me. They can check out my podcast. It's called Extracting Wisdom. You can find it on iTunes. I post it to YouTube periodically. So just search it at Google and whatever platform you like to listen to. Go ahead and check it out. On Instagram or any other social media, you can find me at Brandon Evert DMD student. It says student at the end. Okay. Pretty soon, as soon as I graduate, it'll be Brandon Evert DMD. I'll chop the student off. So you go ahead and follow me there. I've been posting a lot of different cool things. Different guests I've had on my podcast. I'm doing a suture Sunday, so every Sunday I'm posting a different suture type. So I've posted 2 of those already, and I got a couple more in the works. So
that's awesome.
Anything bloody, surgical, I'm into. So
I like bloody.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Especially SRPs, you gotta like bloody, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely, appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of 2 hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of 2 hygienists.